Everybody, including BBC, will tell you that Hitler made his biggest mistake by invading the Soviet Union.
Mm-hmm.
If only he didn't do that, he could have blah 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 blah, and then they would remember, oh yes, Napoleon did the same mistake, you should never invade Russia, blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
It goes on and on and on. Actually, it turns out, if you familiarize yourself with the new studies in this field, which most people haven't done, especially English speaking people, because most new studies are in Russian.
Well, are you looking at the camera or are you looking at yourself?
Doesn't matter. That's not historically relevant. Anyway, if they familiarize themselves with the new studies, they will realize that actually, far from being a mistake, the invasion of Russia was one of the few sensible decisions this idiot ever made.
Mm-hmm.
He made a lot of stupid things in his life, and the very fact that
he did, not he made, he did a lot
he did a lot of stupid things in his life, and the fact that Germany ended up ruined is a testimony to this. But again, invading the Soviet Union was not a mistake. Actually, it was very clever, because if he didn't invade in 1941, by the end of the same 1941, the Soviets would have taken Berlin. Not in 1945, by the end of 1941.
Mm.
The Soviet Union was preparing to take over Western Europe, all of it, and the Soviet Union had a good chance of doing that.
Yeah, wasn't Hitler? Everybody said it was Hitler that wanted to do that. Germany.
Well, Hitler did that. Actually, Hitler took most of Europe.
Yeah, but for what time period? Not for...
Well, between 1939 and 1941.
Okay, it's not long then. Okay.
Except the part of Europe that was within the Soviet Union.
Mm.
Anyway, the Soviet Union was preparing an invasion,
Mm-hmm.
and everything was going according to plan until Hitler invaded first.
Mm.
And undoubtedly Hitler was a genocidal maniac, and I'm very, very glad that he was defeated. But we should all consider the following,
Mm-hmm.
that if he didn't invade on 22nd of June 1941, we would probably be speaking Russian now, and will be living in a global North Korea.
Mm.
Because the Soviet Union had a very good chance of taking over Europe in 1941 and being in London by 1942.
Why are you mumbling? The microphones are weird. You need to speak a bit louder, please.
I'm doing my best.
Okay.
Fortunately for the world, this invasion, this improvisation that Hitler did on 22nd of June, because the German army was not prepared
Mm-hmm.
for invasion at all. The German army was woefully unprepared. But it invaded, it turns out, in the most unsuitable moment for the Soviets.
Mm.
I mean, the world got very lucky on this day. 22nd of June 1941 is probably the most important date in the last 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
There are, of course, many other dates where significant things happened, but on the other dates, these significant things, if they didn't happen on this date or didn't happen even at all, the world would be the same.
Yeah.
The world would not be the same at all if Hitler didn't invade the Soviet Union on this date.
Do you realise my hair was so long? Look at the length of it.
Well, I realize that something of mine is too long, but this has nothing to do with the conversation.
Your nose?
Yeah, my nose. So, there is growing literature, as they say in the academia,
Mm-hmm.
meaning there are more and more books on the subject that demonstrate that the Soviet Union was preparing to take over Europe.
Mm.
And Hitler was part of this plan because Hitler himself came to power thanks to Stalin.
Mm-hmm.
When people hear this, they say, "Oh, come on, flat earthers, conspiracy theories."
Mm-hmm.
Actually, the facts are not even disputed. In 1933, there were 3 big parties in Germany.
I want to go to a party. The last party we went to was New Year's Eve. We were in a brewery and he was on antibiotics and couldn't even drink. Very frustrating.
Okay, don't
Oh.
share about my farts and the cabbage and all
Oh yeah,
that.
there was this 21-year-old girl at the next table, Poppy her name was, and he just farted at our table, a different table. This girl leaned over, she was a bit tipsy, you know. She said, "Excuse me, did you just fart? I can smell it over here." I'm obviously used to his farts, so I didn't really react, but yeah.
So back to the subject, there were 3 big parties in 1933.
Woohoo!
And I'm saying things that could be read in Wikipedia or Encyclopedia Britannica everywhere.
Or say something that's unique to the viewers.
Well, I'm coming to that.
Okay.
And these were the Communist Party in Germany, the Social Democrats, and the National Socialists of Hitler.
Whoa.
And Hitler's party was the biggest, but the other 2 put together were way bigger than the National Socialists.
Mm-hmm.
So if the other 2 made a coalition, Hitler would have never come to power.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to make a coalition, the
Mhm.
Social Democrats with the Communists.
But
But the big bad Stalin came there and forbade the Communists to make a coalition with the Social Democrats. So Stalin ensured that Hitler came to power. And by the way, this is not the only fact. I'm just quoting the one which is the easiest to quote. All the sources are given here. There are other examples as well. For some reason, Stalin wanted to make sure that Hitler comes to power. And also for some reason, Stalin wanted to ensure that Germany is armed and dangerous again. So Stalin helped that there as well.
why?
Why?
Different theories?
Why is the big...
I can think of 2, but there has to be more than that.
Well, the theory that's proposed by Viktor Suvorov and others, which fits the facts nicely, is that Stalin wanted to take over Europe. So he wanted a big European war, where the capitalists... By the way, Stalin said so. Again, this speech of Stalin is quoted here. He said that it would be good for the Soviet Union if the capitalists fight among themselves and exhaust themselves, and it is clear what this means for the Soviet Union. All of a sudden, the Soviet Union could take over. I mean, Stalin had the example of World War I, when Europe was exhausted, so Stalin wanted a repetition. And he managed to achieve it in 1939 with the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. He actually achieved a big war in Europe, while the Soviet Union was sitting on the sidelines and staying somehow neutral. People don't know the basic facts that could be read again in Wikipedia. I'm not saying something new here. In 1939, Hitler was afraid to invade Poland because the British government had given a war guarantee to the Polish government, basically saying to Hitler, if you invade Poland, you will have to fight us. And Hitler was also afraid that it could be a war on 2 fronts, because who is next to Poland on the other side?
Soviet Union?
The Soviet Union, yes. And Hitler remembered about how much weaponry the Soviet Union dumped in Spain during the civil war there. So Hitler had no illusions that the Soviet Union could dump a lot more in neighboring Poland, given that they have a common border. The Soviet Union doesn't have to use ships through the Mediterranean and smuggle weapons. Not to mention that the Soviet Union actually could bring volunteers under socialism. How you do the volunteers?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, volunteers.
Who the hell's going to volunteer for that?
Oh, plenty of people. When you're ordered under socialism to do
Oh,
something,
right.
you volunteer. This is how it works. I was born under socialism. I volunteered for many things. I know how volunteering works under socialism. Anyway, so the war was not happening. And then Stalin appeared and offered the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. And the gist of the pact was as follows. Don't worry, Adolf, there will never be a war between our countries. We are your friends. Oh. And we have nothing against you invading Poland. In fact, why all we want from the Poles is Danzig. Because this is all Hitler actually wanted from the Poles. You could have more than that. You could have half of Poland. Half for you, half for me, eh? Yeah. And they agreed, 23rd of August 1939. They signed the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact in Moscow. And a week later, the Germans, as agreed, invaded Poland. The agreement was that Germany will invade from the west, the Soviet Union from the east, and they will meet in the middle. But the Soviet Union didn't invade. Surprise.
Why?
Why? It's quite obvious when you remember what happened. So the Germans began sending telegrams to the Soviets. What's going on? We agreed on something. You're not invading. And the Soviet Union was answering, oh, we are not prepared yet. We are not ready. And the Soviet Union waited for 3 weeks. First, 2 days later, so the Germans invaded on the 1st of September. On 3rd of September, the British and the French governments declared war on Germany. That's the beginning of World War II. Also the Germans had to do all the dirty work to crush the Polish resistance. And 3 weeks later, the Soviet Union invaded from the other side.
Is that the 19th?
20th or something, I don't remember the date. 20th, 19th, 20th, something along those lines. It's quoted in the book, in When History Had Other Plans. And they met in the middle, the Germans and the Soviets. They held a joint parade. By the way, you could watch the parade, it's on YouTube. There is video footage of it. And everything was honky-dory, except that now Germany was at war with the Brits and the French, and potentially with the United States, while the Soviet Union was somehow peaceful and neutral and sitting on the sidelines. So the Stalin did it very, very elegantly, very well. In 1939 he played these idiots that were Hitler and the idiots who were governing Britain so easily, like children. Is this the expression, like children? Play them like children?
Kind of like a violin. No.
Yeah,
No,
like a
not.
violin. Okay.
I don't know,
Whatever.
not very bright. So.
Whatever. Everything went according to plan. But in 1941, Stalin made a grave mistake, and thank God that he made this grave mistake, because, like I said, otherwise we would be speaking Russian right now and living in a global North Korea. He made a big mistake because he was sure Hitler will not invade first. But Hitler did invade first. Hitler was spooked by Stalin, by the way. Hitler had no idea of taking over. These things that you have heard, Lebensraum, all this has been debunked. The real reason Hitler invaded the Soviet Union has nothing to do with Lebensraum. It was a combination of several events. The main one was that shortly before that, Stalin took Bessarabia and Bukovina. And you would say, who cares about Bessarabia and Bukovina? Nobody does. But it so happens that Bessarabia and Bukovina were next to Ploiești.
Oil fields.
Yes. And that was the main source of oil for Germany. And at this point, Hitler, who was not very clever, not very bright, but even Hitler understood what's going on and what would be the next step. and where things are going. So Hitler invaded out of desperation. Because they did calculations, and it turned out it's impossible to defend Ploiești, to defend anything. They saw that they will lose the war in several short months. I mean, they didn't have access to the Soviet plans, but they didn't need to, because when they looked on the map what's going on, it was quite obvious. Also, the Soviet Union did a similar move in Finland.
Sorry, Finland?
Finland was very close to several sources of minerals that were crucial for Germany. Close to the main source of iron ore. The main source of iron ore was not there, but it was close. So it was clear that the Soviet Union is preparing to strangle economically Germany. And the Soviet Union, people don't realize that the Soviet Union was far better armed than Germany. I mean, people don't believe me when I say this, and this is why I've quoted all the sources here. The Soviet Union had way more weaponry, and what's more important, the Soviet weaponry was more modern, better quality, far better. And this is why in the book there is plenty of information on what actually they had model by model, because it's very easy to make generalizations. The German weapons were better, or the Soviet weapons. Everybody can say this. Let's go model by model, with actual numbers, with actual characteristics, and when you go there, you see that on every count, the Soviets had more and better. Was this interesting?
It was actually, yes.
Even you listened.
I paid full attention, yes.
Wow.
I stifled a few
surprised.
yawns, you might have noticed, but yeah, that was
Okay.
interesting. Thank you. It was quite easy to understand. Not an academic speech. It's enough for me, Joe Blogs, to understand.
Shall I press the stop button?
Anything else you want to say?
Well, there are many other things that are interesting in this story, but it cannot all be squeezed in one video.
And there's some of this information in Russian language only.
Yes, this is the problem, because it turned out, I also didn't realize this at first, that most of what is published in English is actually rehashing of the Soviet propaganda. Because the Western scholars had no access to actual information behind the Iron Curtain, so they were relying on what was made public in the Soviet Union. And what was made public was propaganda. For example, what Stalin was saying, these were lies. What Khrushchev was saying, lies. I mean, they were all lying.
And let's go back to what I said a minute ago. A lot of this information is available only in Russian language.
Yes.
And?
So you have either to speak Russian or to read sources in English that actually summarize the new studies.
And does anyone in this room speak, read, write, understand, translate Russian into English?
Yes.
Unique selling point right there.
Yes.
He's translated this into English for you and me and the rest to read, learn, understand.
Yes. Things changed a lot since the fall of the Soviet Union. Many documents were declassified and published, and but unfortunately, they are still not published in the West. For example, this story how Stalin decapitated his army, and this is why Hitler could reach Moscow. This is baloney. This is pure moonshine. It has nothing to do with reality. Khrushchev came with this story because Khrushchev wanted to to make Stalin look bad. So he came with this idea that 40,000 Soviet officers were executed by Stalin. The documents were published in Военный исторический журнал, which is the official journal of the Russian army. And it turned out that the documents that Khrushchev was quoting, and that were not published at the time, actually don't say what Khrushchev claimed they say. They speak of 40,000 officers who were demobilized.
What does that mean?
Demobilized means they were no longer officers in the army. So
Oh.
some of them became pensioners, others were demobilized because they were dishonorably discharged.
Oh, okay.
A very small number, 700, were really shot, but not 40,000. And 400 for the Soviet Union, that was not a big deal. That was, the number of the officers shot was actually lower than the numbers of the people shot among the general population. The Soviet Union had 200, we call the number in the book, 207,000 or something, thousand officers at the time. So a few hundred was nothing. So there was no decapitation in the army. And what's more important, these few hundred, they were actually not the best officers. Quite the opposite. Actually, the Red Army was better off without them. And this is why they were shot. They were undisciplined, they were incompetent. But nobody has bothered actually to study their biographies. For example, Tukhachevsky is one of them. Tukhachevsky, the Red Army was much better without the likes of Tukhachevsky. Unruly commanders who were useless, worse than useless. They were undisciplined. They were mutineers, some of them. So the field has changed quite dramatically, but the inertia continues. If you go to a local library, the chances are you will read some book that quotes some other book from the 60s or whatever, and all these books in English, they contain outdated information. The information that is at odds with the new publications. That's it. This is how it works. If you want to study Soviet history, like it or not, you have to speak Russian. And I say this only because I do speak Russian. Yeah. I'm not a Russian, by the way. I don't like Russians.
You look like a Russian. You look like a KGB reject. Look at that face.
Okay.
Say something Russian.
Well, what do you want me to say?
Something in Russian.
Нечто по-русски. I said something in Russian.
Okay. I will now say something in Russian. Riba нет, мясо нет.
Рыба нет, мяса нет.
Мясо нет. I got that wrong. I'm going to do that again. Edit. Hold on. I'm now going to say something in Russian. Riba нет, мясо нет.
Рыба. Рыба нет, мяса
Riba.
нет.
What did I
Riba.
say?
Riba.
Riba.
You said
Riba.
riba.
Oh.
This is a very specific sound
Ah.
that exists only in Russian. Riba. Riba.
Rib.
Yari. Riba.
Yariba.
No, it's
Oh,
known as
my
Yari.
goodness.
Riba. Riba.
I can't roll my R's.
Riba нет.
Riba.
Мяса нет.
Мясо нет. Start again. I can't say it. Riba. No.
Riba.
Riba.
Riba
I
нет.
say it in Arabic. Riba. Huh? Riba нет.
Arabic has nothing to do with
I
Russian.
know, but I can pronounce it easier in Russian. Riba нет.
Riba нет.
Riba нет. Riba нет. Мясо нет.
Mhm.
No
Yeah.
meat, no fish.
Actually, you pronounce it quite well.
Ah, спасибо.
But when they hear me speak in Russian, the Russians, I mean, they know from the word go that I'm not a Russian. My accent is quite strong.
Okay. Silvana Maikata.
That's not Russian.
No, it's Bulgarian. That's all I know.
Okay. We will not translate this. It will violate the community guidelines.
Not for the first time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, are we done?
Yeah. Spokojnej noche.